Alright, what's going on, guys? It's going to be my Stamina Warden PvP build for Lost Depths. We're going to start off by getting 22k max stam, 31,000 max health, 17k max stamina, 22k max magicka, 1200 magicka recovery, 1500 stam recovery, 4200 weapon damage, 11% crit with 10k pen, and 20k resistances with 1800 crit resist. We're running the lady for this build. You can run whatever Mundus you want. I just chose a lady for the extra tankiness. We're running Vampire Stage 3, and then Smoke Bear Haunt for our food. You could also run the purple version of this food if you want instead, but I just chose to run 2700 stam recovery, 2400 magicka recovery, 5200 weapon damage, and our resistances are going to be 26k on the front bar and 29k on the back bar. That's without magma on, so these are my resistances with magma proc. For our sets, we're going to be running Magma Incinerate as our monster set. You can run Battleground here as well. Battleground is an insanely good set with this build. I would definitely recommend running that as well. I just ran this because I think it was better in duel. Battleground would definitely be a really strong open world. I'll go more into that later, but Battleground would definitely, I would run open world over Magma. It's the extra damage and the ulti regen we can build with this class. And then One Piece Trainee, Reinforced, and then Alchemist. And then Wretched Vitality on the front bar, Alchemist on the back bar, and then our mythic will be Mark and Ring. All infused weapon damage, running 5 medium 2 heavy, Impen on our shoulders, helmet, gloves, and boots. One piece well fitted on the waist, and then reinforced chest and legs. These are our both heavy pieces. And we're running all prismatic glyphs. For our weapon here, it's going to be sharpened with weapon damage enchant. That is because I am running Fetcher here, which gives us minor vulnerability. If you don't want to run Fletcher, then I recommend putting a shock glyph here. And if you still don't want to run a weapon damage enchant, then you can run Flame or Disease, would also be really good as well, or even Poisons. For our back bar, we're running a weapon damage enchant with Powered. For our skills here, we're running Execute, Deep Fissure, Bird of Prey, Dizzy Swing, and Fetcher with Dawnbreaker Smiting. This procs are set, by the way. This gives us major and minor breach. I'm pretty sure that was changed on this patch. But this is really strong since this gives us basically 9,000 penetration for 10 seconds. It makes an easy proc of Wretched Vitality here, since we need a major and a minor, and our Deep Fissure procs that for us. So we basically have 100% uptime on this recovery. And as you saw, we get like 2700 stam recovery and 2300 mag recovery, so you have so much sustain on this build. It's insane. And then if you don't run Fetcher, I recommend putting Shimmering here for open world. This will give us major heroism, which will give us massive ulti regen. If you're running this, I definitely recommend putting Balorgs on instead of Magma, so you get the most out of Balorgs, since this gives us major heroism for 6 seconds, granting us 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. And since we have so much sustain with this build, you definitely can spam this relatively quite a bit during a duel and in open world, since you have plenty of sustain. So I definitely recommend taking this in open world, giving that extra survivability and giving you that extra ult regen, and then allowing Balorgs to make up for the lack of damage that Fletcher would have provided us. But you do lose out on the increased armor penetration. They did switch this on this patch too. It no longer increases your damage done by 2% per ability. It now just gives you a flat 990 pen. So a bit of a change there. We're also running the blue Betty here, and the reason why I'm running that, I tried all the setups where I put all points into max stam and then use Betty here. I've tried all points into max stam where I use the stam morph, all match magicka, and I use the stam morph, then all match magicka, and I use this, and I felt like this was just overall the best setup. You do lose on a bit of damage for stacking pure match magicka with this build, but overall I think it's definitely worth it. You don't lose that much damage, you gain a lot of survivability just from having the extra match magicka, since all our heals comes from match magicka, and even our Deep Fissure comes from match magicka. The only 2 stam abilities we have is Dizzy and Executioner, and then blocking, of course, and roll dodge, where our stam pool gets drained from. But yeah, very good. And then for our abilities, we're running Leeching Vines. I prefer this over the Morph. That's just my personal preference. You can take the other Morph if you want to. I just prefer Leeching Vines. And then Green Lotus, can I say, gives us Major Prophecy and Savagery, increasing our weapon and spell critical by 2600. And then Polar Winds. I do like this over Arctic Blast. And that is because we already have a reliable stun from Dizzy. So I don't really think we need the other Morph for Polar Winds. Plus the heal is bigger with Polar Winds too, since we have 30k max health, and it gives us a nice hot over 2 seconds, which goes up the more health you have, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it goes up to 2800, which is pretty nice. This gives us a nice fatty heal, and it's just overall better in my opinion than Arctic Blast, since we don't need it for the stun, since we are running Dizzy Strong. And then Betty Netch here, I already explained why I'm running that. And then Vigor here, this gives us major and major resolve now, so we don't have to run Frost Cloak anymore. We lose out on the minor protection that this gives, but I do think it's just worth dropping it just running Vigor instead, since this gives us a hot, and it gives us spell and physical resistance for 20 seconds. But since you're going to be using this as healing, you never actually have to use this for the major and minor resolve, which gives us actually just overall better sustain, since we're not wasting 4k magicka on Iron Fortress. It gives us more magicka sustain to put into our healing. And then Enchanted Forest, I think this is better because when you use it on a friendly target under 50% health, you gain 20 ultimate. It's only 92 ultimate cost, and if you're using Shivering Shields, your ultimate comes up really fast anyways. So you really do not need the other morph, since I do prefer this is just better anyways. Another reason why you also want to run Polar Winds is this also heals an ally, and not just yourself, so you can support your team a bit as well. In terms of skills, that's pretty much it. They also changed Bird of Prey, by the way, so now this gains snare immunity for 4 seconds. So that's why you don't have to run forward momentum to get rid of the snare immunity anymore. You can now just use Bird of Prey. This is actually a really nice change to this class, since this gives us once again another slot open for open world, since this covers both major expedition and snare immunity. And also gives us minor berserk, which this is just becoming a very overloaded skill now. It gives us basically 3 really good stats, and it's relatively cheap to use, only 2700 magicka, and with our magicka sustain, it definitely comes in handy. Another thing I should mention is you should be running a magicka enchantment on your back part here for your shield, not a stamina. Since we put all our points into Matt's magicka, it gives us more overall healing if it's Matt's magicka and not stamina. So I should mention that as well. I think I had it stamina for a bit because I just forgot. But yeah, Match Magicka will give you more healing, so you should just go with Match Magicka. For races, I recommend Imperial, and then Breton, and then probably Orc. Imperial's very good because it gives us cost reduction across the board. And since we're pulling from both resources pretty evenly, I would say, since we're blocking and rolling a lot, reduces your break free cost, and when we go on the offensive, we're dizzy spamming along with executing, which is very nice. And it also reduces our magicka abilities by 6%, which is just massive. Breton reduces it by an extra 1%, and you gain some extra recovery, but Imperial gives you that nice max stamina and a nice max health here, which helps us out quite a bit. You could go Breton if you want a bit more damage. You'll have worse sustain in my opinion, but you'll have more damage overall. You'll have worse sustain, and you'll have to put a little bit more points, I think, in the max health. But I do think Imperial would be the best for this build, along with then Breton and Orc. Orc if you want more damage and a little less sustain. Onto our CP now. For CP, we're running Master at Arms, Deadly Aim, Ironclad, and Exploiter. This is the highest damaging setup you can do, since using Dizzy Swing gives you system off balance. That increases our damage done by 10%. Deadly Aim is 6, Master of Arm is 6, so we have a bunch of extra damage. And then Ironclad here reduces the damage taken by direct attacks by 3%. I mean 6%, that's very strong. The other one I would recommend running is Resilience here. And then if you put Resilience, I would then put Well Fitted where the impen is on the armor, so you can get more rolling and sprinting out of it. But although if you don't want to run Resilience, then you have to run what I have, which is impen on 4 of the pieces, and then Well Fitted on 1, where you could run Well Fitted on 5, and then 2 Reinforced if you run Resilience. So that's another option if you want to go for that, and then get all your passives. For the red tree here, I recommend running Fortified, Pain Refuge, Sustained by Suffering, and Survival Instinct. This gives you the same amount of sustain. Sustain passive again, reduces damage taken by 2% for every negative effect on you. And then Fortify gives us armor. For this build, you could also run Boundless Vitality since we are a Warden. And this is one of the better CP passives on a Warden. I would switch it out for the armor one, so you'd have a bit more max health. But I do think Fortify is still better since this is just overall damage reduction, which will help you sustain better. And then get all your passes that you see fit. And then for the green tree, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Gifted Rider, and War Mount are the best green pass. They don't really relate to combat in any way, so I won't really go over them. And then get all your passes that you see fit. So I will show the build fully buffed up now. Weapon damage here is 6100. Mad recovery is 2400. Stem recovery is 2700. And whatnot. Resistances are almost 30k on the front bar, 32k and a half on the back bar, so we're really tanky on this build. You can definitely drop the lady if you don't want the extra tankiness and go for like the warrior for extra damage or anything like that. I just prefer the lady because I think it gives you the most stats for the Mundus Stone. In terms of fighting, you just want to dizzy into a medium weave to get the stun off. You would dizzy to set them off balance, hit them with the medium weave like so, to stun them, and then go for the, as your sub assault's about to hit, you just do a medium weave, and then sub would hit, and then you would go for the execute, and then instead of medium weave, if you had your ult up, you would just ult instead. So you just dizzy into Dawnbreaker as your sub's about to hit, and then go for an execute. That's the way you want to play the build. It's you're very tanky and you're very hard to kill. So if you have any questions regarding the build, I'd be happy to answer anything down in the comments below. Yeah, and I hope you guys enjoyed.